Founded in 2014, the Extraordinary Achievers' vision is to empower others to be the best version of themselves. The show is hosted by Chief Lady Waynette Peters, a multi-entrepreneur, empowerment speaker, confidence mentor, positive lifestyle coach, humanitarian ambassador, and a TV host. Lady Waynette is a holder of over 35 international awards for her humanitarian, philanthropic, and international empowerment contributions and holds 2 chieftaincy titles. Welcome to the Extraordinary Achievers Show.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us onto the Extraordinary Achievers Show. YouTube viewers, Twitter viewers, LinkedIn viewers, Facebook platforms, Meetup, and our live TV website viewers. We would like to thank you for joining us again on another show of the Extraordinary Achievers. And if this is your first time to joining us on the Extraordinary Achievers, we welcome you every Wednesday at 8 p.m. as we look at community affairs, interest, and that which creates awareness. We would like to encourage you to follow us on our Facebook channel, on our YouTube channel, and also Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn account. We will be delighted to connect with you. The Extraordinary Achievers Show covers topics ranging from mindfulness, awareness, self-development, and empowerment, true stories, and community interests and affairs, interviewing industry experts and individuals either that have overcome adversity or share knowledge to that which creates awareness. We work in collaboration and in harmony with other community enhancement organizations. Once again, thank you for joining us. We have some texts that I received earlier, some text messages. So I am going to read them out to you as Aideen puts them up on the screen from us. Marilyn Wisby says, this so-called virus was not isolated. Another text from Marilyn said, my GP told me it was airborne virus. That's not true. Reason being, I traveled in underground and overground without masks. Last year, masks have been proven that they don't work. That was her comment. And then Marilyn went on to say, when are our top health ministers in the UK to be charged with the demise of the old people in the care homes? Sam Dinsey said, I've had the 2 vaccinations, and it's nerve-wracking when people say those that have taken the vaccination will die in 5 to 6 years' time. I know, and I appreciate that, and I really think that needs to stop, really. And Sophia Lambro says, there's an increase of unvaccinated pregnant women going into hospital with COVID-19. She went on to say, why now are pregnant women being advised to get vaccinated when we don't really know the side effects on the unborn child? We thank you for your text that you have sent us through today, and that has come through. And we encourage you today to participate. We are all seeking information. The Extraordinary Achievers Show is not here today to endorse having the jab, and neither are we adverse to you taking the jab. We are all here to seek understanding, pursuing knowledge, and willing to gain self-understanding. Today's program serves us to discuss and to learn and to hear from those on the ground on the advice that they can give to us all. In doing so, we are joined by the experts. We are joined by Professor Rotimi Jaisim, a medical specialist based in the United Kingdom and has international medical associations. Good evening, Professor.
Good evening, and thank you for having me on your show.
And thank you for coming back. And we are also joined today by Dr. Vita Kaki, a biochemistry and molecular biology expert based in the United States of America. Dr. Vita Kaki, good evening and welcome back on the Extraordinary Achievers Show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for saying yes. We are also joined this evening by Dr. Somia Ektada, a member corona expert advisor and group in Punjab in Pakistan, Secretary General Pakistan Society of Internal Medicine. Doctor, we welcome you back on the Extraordinary Achievers Show for you to be able to advise us on what is going on and what's on ground. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you have just joined us this evening, we have the three experts in the field of COVID-19 in different and various fields that they are experts in. Indeed, they don't know it all. They are also upgrading their knowledge as it comes in each and every day. Today, they share with us what they know and what we should know and how we should be advised as we go forward in life. So we are going to welcome back first Dr. Vita. Dr. Vita, welcome back onto our screens and thank you for joining us today. Dr. Vita, you joined us just over 3 months ago on the Extraordinary Achievers, and you shared with us how you had taken the vaccine and how you had reacted to the vaccine. But before you tell us how you are now, we are going to introduce to our audience and remind them what you do. Dr. Vita is a holistic menstrual coach who helps women with irregular periods, infertility, PCOS, fibroids, and other hormonal issues to restore their reproductive imbalances. Dr. Vita empowers women worldwide to take charge of their health so they can improve their fertility. She does this by showing women tools they can use to prepare themselves mentally, emotionally, and physically so they can improve their reproductive health. A holistic approach to reproductive health focuses on the detoxification of hormone disrupting chemicals combined with the consumption of foods and nutritiousness and herbal remedies. Amongst many other lines of expertise, that's including being an author, Dr. Vita Kaki is an astute scientist and researcher. She is young, she's vibrant, and she is full of fresh ideas. Dr. Vita, welcome back again on the Extraordinary Achievers Show.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. Dr. Vita, last time you were on the show, you did share with us that you had reacted to the vaccination. How are you now?
I am much better.
Fantastic.
I have to say, I'm not 100% the way that I was, for example, a year ago, but I can say I'm 95% there. I need more sleep than I used to. Back then, I would be very fatigued during the day. I would require a nap. Now I'm able to go the entire day without a nap. I just need more sleep than I used to. I can't get away with just 6 or 7 hours. I need a little bit more, but I am much better.
That is refreshing to hear that you're much better. In the last program, and in your own words, you still say, though that happened to you, you were in the minority and not everyone is reacting to the vaccination. And you were still encouraging everyone to have a vaccination. Are you still encouraging others to be vaccinated?
I am. The funny thing is, I got my second dose and didn't have a single reaction. I got it much later than everyone else. I got it 5 months later. I had no reaction, and I'm absolutely grateful that I got it. I have a 2-year-old son. I also have my mother who sometimes lives with me. So for their health, as well as my husband's strong and fit, but I have 2 people that are kind of a little vulnerable. And so for their protection and for peace of mind, I am very glad that I went through and got my second dose. And I absolutely still recommend people, if you feel like you want to get it, go ahead and get it.
It is indeed a personal choice, and I'm glad that you're back with us today. We are excited about that because it is in the awareness for many people is trying to make up their minds. Should they have it? Should they not have it? And if they've had it, then what's next? Dr. Vita, can you please explain to us the different vaccines that are currently on the market?
Yes. So I'm mostly going to focus on talking about vaccines that are available in the United Kingdom as well as the United States. I have access to their databases. I have access to their literature. So I know more about those vaccines. other parts of the world use other vaccines that I know about, but I don't know enough about it to go through the actual mechanism of how they work. But to break things down into layman terms, there are really three groups of vaccines, and this applies to other types of vaccines outside of COVID-19 as well. But today we're talking about COVID-19. So you have messenger RNA vaccines. When these vaccines, they're injecting messenger RNA so your body can make a protein that is on the actual COVID-19. So that's how our immune response works. The whole point of vaccines is to introduce something to your body so that when your body sees something that's COVID-19 like, your immune system will start to attack it. So with the messenger RNA vaccines, these are being injected so that your body can make a protein that is on COVID-19. And so I made sure that I wrote everything down. Sometimes I forget when I talk. So Pfizer and Moderna are the messenger RNA proteins. And so you have to get multiple doses of these because you have to stimulate your body to make those proteins multiple times. So that's number one. Then secondly, they're vector vaccines. And I've actually made a lot of vector vaccines. This is inserting a DNA sequence into your cells. So this is something that you create in a laboratory. It's not very difficult to create. And then you inject it into the people, and then it goes into your cells, and then it starts to make that protein that is on COVID-19 so that if your body comes in contact with COVID-19, it's already seen it before and it will be able to attack it. And so vector vaccines, they last a long time. They're my favorite vaccines because if we put it into a cell, it can stay into that cell for years at a time, months at a time, depending on how you make that vector. Now, Johnson & Johnson is a vector vaccine. AstraZeneca and the University of Oxford also, those are also vector vaccines. So vector vaccines are good because you don't need to continue doing as many boosters as the messenger RNA vaccines that are Pfizer and Moderna. And then the last one is a protein subunit vaccine. And these are very difficult because with this vaccine, you're actually injecting the protein from the coat of COVID-19 into people. Now, we currently, in the UK and US, we do not have an approved protein subunit vaccine. And so those are the three main types: the messenger RNA vaccine. And so that's putting mRNA into your body so that you can make a protein. The second one is a vector vaccine, and that's where they insert the sequence to make the protein that's on the COVID-19, on SARS-CoV-2. And then the third one is a protein subunit vaccine. And so that third one, we do not currently have an approval in the US and UK for that type of vaccine.
Doctor, wow. I feel like I've been to school for the very first time and learning something. Thank you. That was a great way of introduction and explaining for us today. Doctor, we will be back with you shortly. We are going to do some hellos and welcome those that have joined us. We would like to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for subscribing to our channels. Thank you for sharing this program. And today is one of those times I say it's super, 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 super important for us to share on WhatsApp, for us to share in Facebook groups, for us to tag other friends that are not watching so we can all learn together. Bangi says good evening and good evening to you. And thank you for joining us. Sophia Lambro, all the way from Greece. Hey, Babito. She says good evening and she's looking forward to tonight's show. And thank you for your input. And PK Kelsey says good evening and good evening to you, Princess. And Archie says good evening and so very welcome and thank you for coming onto the show. Sophia says watching you all from Cyprus. Yes, we know. And Heather says looking forward to the show and thank you for joining us. Melissa says greetings and greetings to you too, hon. DGC says good evening and good evening to you and thank you for being an awesome supporter and an amazing encourager. I appreciate you. Laurel Perkins says good evening all and good evening to you, Laurel, and thank you for joining us. Power Extra Radio says fantastic topic and we love Power Extra Radio and Master Mo yourself. Thank you. Well needed now and thank you, Master Mo. Bukola says, greetings. And hey, hon, nice to see you on the show. And Thomas says, interesting to hear something being pushed for a 99.97% recovery rate. Thank you. And Sophia says, unvaccinated people are required to test regularly. Vaccinated people are no longer testing, even though they can still carry the virus. So aren't the vaccinated technically safer? We will address that question shortly. And Vincent says, I am glad I made it again tonight. It's always impactful here, and how it is so amazing to have you on this show. Say hello to my sister for me. Tell her that I miss her and I look forward to seeing her soon. Patrick T says, hello, I'm late again. You are grounded again. And Bibsy says, hi, and thank you for the invite. And thank you so very much for joining us. Much appreciated. And Amjad says, hi, dear ones. Thank you for this informative session watching from Pakistan. And thank you for joining us from Pakistan. Thank you. Tonight, we're talking about COVID vaccinations and where are we at now and where are we going and what should we expect. We hope that this program today serves to those that have not been vaccinated, if they would like to get vaccinated, and for those that have been vaccinated to have a peace of mind that they're not dying within 5 to 6 years, as some programs are that we have seen. And for some that have had the first jab and have not had the second jab, we also hope and pray that this program creates some awareness. Next on our screens, we are going to see Professor Rotimi Ayodele Kayode Jaisemi. Professor Rotimi, a 1978 graduate of the University of Ibadan, was appointed consultant in obstetrics and gynecology in the UK in 1994, the first Nigerian to be appointed. Professor Jaisemi is currently the Associate Medical Director for Patient Safety at Basildon University Hospital, Essex, and visiting professor at the Faculty of Law, University of Ibadan in Nigeria. He is a UK National Health Service Patient Safety Specialist. He is a Senior Fellow of the Faculty of Medical Leadership and Management and a Fellow of the Institute of Information Management, a Fellow of the West African College of Surgeons, and a Fellow for Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. He also has a master's in business administration from the Newcastle Business School and a master's degree in medical law from Northumbria University, Newcastle. Professor, we thank you for joining us again today. And Professor is a transformation agent with a vast wealth of experience in clinical care, health policy, and global health development. He co-authored Nigeria's national policy on gender and health and contributed to Nigeria's national policy on diaspora matters. He has published over 60 scientific articles and presented numerous international scientific conferences. He is currently the chairman of the advisory board of the Nigerian Commission of the Global Eradication Program for Hepatitis and a member of the Diaspora Professional Plus Healthcare Initiative to reverse Nigeria's brain drain. Professor, we welcome you back on the Extraordinary Achievers Show. And Professor, from the last time you were here, thank you. For the last time you were here and this time that you're back, do you have any personal views that have changed in between that time?
If the changes, it's more of reinforcement of the value of the vaccines, because the last time I was on the program, we had quite very high number of people being hospitalized, being seriously ill. But with the rollout of the vaccination program, we've seen a drastic reduction in people dying, in people getting seriously ill, and in people being hospitalized. So, if anything, it's been very positive. And the last time I was on the program, I wasn't too certain whether the use of the vaccine had been extended to pregnant women and breastfeeding mothers. But studies from the data now show us that it is safe to use in pregnancy, and the vaccine is also safe in breastfeeding mothers. And the advice now is that pregnant women should, after discussions with their doctor, consider taking the vaccine.
Thank you, Professor. And that will answer Sophia Lambert's question about pregnant mothers and the unborn babies. Professor, which one of the vaccinations has been seen to be providing more immunity? Is there one more favorable than the other?
No, there isn't one more favorable than the other. And that's because, like doctor said, what the vaccines do is to prepare your body to recognize the virus should you come in contact with the virus. So then your body mounts the defense. I can hear. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
We can hear you, Dr. Professor. My apologies. Professor, yes, we can hear you. We just had a slight freeze, but yes, indeed, we can hear you. Please continue.
All right. Sorry, yeah, I did hear some background noise. That's why I was wondering. Yes, so there's none that is better than the other. They all do the same work, which is to stimulate or make the body recognize the virus should you come in contact with the virus. I think one thing that one should say is that because of the blood clots associated with the AstraZeneca vaccine, pregnant women are advised not to take that particular one. They can take the Pfizer, they can take the Moderna, but caution is being exercised with the AstraZeneca vaccine in pregnancy.
Thank you, Professor. Professor, we are going to look at some comments that have come through, and we will be back with you shortly. Thank you. We have some comments and we would like to read them out, and we welcome you onto the Extraordinary Achievers Show, and thank you for sharing this program on WhatsApp groups with WhatsApp friends, on other Facebook groups, and also tagging those that wish to create more awareness with the COVID vaccinations. We were listening to Professor Rotimi that was on our screens, and now we have Anthony on our screens, and he says, wow, this professor make I get biro and notebooks. I'm all ears. I think he's saying he's going to get a pen and paper. My Taylor says, hi, I hope you're well. I've had both my jabs several weeks ago. My 4 children, all unvaccinated, contracted COVID-19 and were ill. I, however, was fine. By the same token, an old school friend, fit and healthy, suffered seriously from COVID-19 despite being vaccinated. Thank you for sharing that. DG says, can 100% human immune system not cope with this virus? And that is a question that one of our guests will answer today. Thank you. And we thank you for all your comments. We thank you for joining us today. And we thank you for taking time out to comment, to share, and to like. We have our next question, which we are going to pose to Dr. Samir, which is going to be more in line with what Dizzy just said and asked, which is, if you've, in my question, it has this angle. If you've already contracted COVID, has your body developed antibodies, or are the variants? One should be concerned about maybe the variants of them. Are they the ones that we should be concerned about? If you've already had COVID, should you still get the immunization, or should you wait for the booster? And to answer this question today is Dr. Samir. Iqtada. Dr. Samia is an extremely capable and accomplished young physician who is currently working in the capacity of an associate professor of medicine at King Edward Medical University, KEMU, in Lahore. She is a fellow of College of Surgeons in Pakistan and Royal College of Physicians in London. Dr. Samia has been actively engaged in the medical education, research, and clinical leadership ever since her graduation from KEMU. Being an avid member of several health and medical education communities and having estimable membership of several national and international medical advisory boards, she has contributed immensely and not restricted only to the medical community. That includes teaching, training, and conducting numerous workshops on a routinely basis, but also routinely providing public healthcare awareness on several written, digital, and televised forums. In lieu of services and contributions to medical education, she has been elected as the first General Secretary for Pakistan Society of Internal Medicine. She has numerous publications in indexed national as well as international journals of high impact factor and had contributed to Kumar. Dr. Soumya Iqtada, the primary author of guidelines on Congo influenza, Ebola, and COVID-19 in Pakistan. She currently is appointed as chairperson and expert advisory group and is the member Corona Technical Working Group and Corona Expert Advisory Group of Pakistan and is advisor to WHO on viral diseases. I apologize, I got a tongue tied over there. Being an adult orator and presenter, she has presented in Pakistan in numerous international conferences, presenting her research and experiences. Her areas of interest include cardio, metabolic medicine, women health, infectious diseases, and telemedicine. She has also been nominated in Top 100 Women in Global Health in Pakistan chapter, awarded Women Health Hero in 2020 by the governor of the state. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Soumya.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Soumya, if you've already contracted COVID-19 and you've had the virus, has your body not developed its own immune system and can therefore fight the virus? Or is it that we should be concerned about the variants of COVID-19? And if so, does the COVID-19 virus that we have now help us with that? Or should we just wait for the booster to come?
Yeah, I think thank you very much for posing this question to me because this is very relevant and a lot of people are asking about it on daily basis. So when you get an infection from a virus like COVID-19, then the body generates a natural immune response against it. But the immune response is individualized. So some people have a very robust immune response and they produce a very good antibodies and they are protected, but some have a little less robust system of immune. And the antibodies that are produced, they are not so much high in number, and sometimes if they are high, they fade away with the passage of time. So it really depends upon from person to person how your body reacts to that virus, especially people who are older than 65 years of age or people who have comorbidities, like people who are immunocompromised or people who have chronic respiratory diseases or diabetics. In these people, we call them as clinically extremely vulnerable group. So the antibody response, it quickly fades away and then you are again prone to develop infection. So it is very important that even if you have had contracted COVID before, that you must get vaccinated because the immune response that the vaccine produces is much more in strength and duration of protection as compared to the natural infection. So I encourage everyone who has even recovered from COVID-19 to get their vaccination done because this will protect them in the longer run. And the second question that you asked about variants. So we have seen few cases of reinfections as well. that means that the immune response could be specific to one variant, but you might be infected with another variant after a couple of months, because the immunity, the immune response, it fades away, and then you are again susceptible to any infection. And variants, because they have a different, slightly different genetic makeup from the wild type, the initial type, so they can again pose a threat to you. So it is always better to get yourself protected by getting a vaccination. I hope this answers your question.
Thank you, Dr. Soumya. Dr. Soumya, we have a question that's come up. Should people be tested before they have the vaccination? Is there any need to be tested before to check if they have the vaccine or not? The question will come up on our screens, if people should be tested before they have had the vaccine. Should we have ourselves tested? Heather says, should people be tested for COVID first before taking the vaccine? Is it necessary?
Yeah, if you are not symptomatic and if you have not had a close contact with anybody who is positive, then you do not suspect to be suffering from COVID-19, then there is no need to get yourself tested via PCR before getting vaccinated. But if you have a suspicion that you are running fever, or you have respiratory symptoms, or you have had a close contact with a person who was tested COVID-19 positive, then it is better to check for COVID-19 via PCR, and if it is negative, then go for vaccination. Otherwise, as a routine case, there's no need for checking going for the test first and then getting vaccinated.
Is there any danger of if you have got the COVID at that moment in time, and then you getting the COVID jab? Is there a danger in that?
No, I don't think there would be any danger, because the vaccine is only going to build the immune response and protect you. But you never know which kind of febrile illness or virus infection you have. So if you have fever, it is always better to get yourself tested first. And we give the vaccination after recovery, for after some time, because the body's immune response is itself working because of contracting the virus if you are infected. So we give time for the body to settle that, and after some time, we get the people vaccinated.
Thank you. Doctor, we've got one more question for you from our viewers. Your next question is coming up. Melissa says, why should every civilian have 100% faith in the vaccine that has only been around for a year, when illnesses like cancer have been around for decades and scientists have yet to find a cure after so much research? What would you say to Melissa?
So every civilian should not have 100% faith. Faith is something which is very personal and which comes from within. But what we support is from data. And data is backed by scientific evidence. And the world revolves around science now. So if the scientific evidence gives you in the favor of something, so probably this is something which is beneficial for you. It is for you, your own free will, to decide whether you want to trust that data and get yourself protected, or you want to wait and see, and you want to wait for further more data to come up and have faith in that vaccination and then go for it. I think it's a personal choice, but we being scientists always advocate the scientific background of anything, and we only put forward the facts in front of the public. It's for them to decide what is best for them. We can just guide them.
Fantastic. Have you been vaccinated, doctor?
Yes, of course.
And how were you? Did you react to it at all?
Not to the first dose, but to the second dose a little. I had a mild body aches and pains, but I did not have to take off from work, and I was perfectly fine within few hours.
Fantastic. Doctor, thank you so much, and we will be back with you shortly. We are now going to go over to Dr. Vita Kaki. Dr. Vita Kaki, we have this question for you. An article on the Reuters website stated that social media users have asked why clinical trials for COVID-19 vaccines are set to continue for several years. And people want to know if the jab is safe, why the need to continue to be doing any tests if the jab is absolutely 100% safe. And I know you, as a researcher and a scientist, you would give us an explanation in the lines of standard practice for safety monitoring to continue after vaccination has been approved. But is it 100% safe for us to be having a vaccination that is still on trial?
Yes, so up until this point, most of us, if we're getting mRNA vaccines, we've gotten the first or second dose. And then if you're getting a vector vaccine, you've gotten one dose. So we're at that stage right now. But then there's another question of how long will these effects last? And that is, do we need booster shots? And how long do we need booster shots? So we still need to continue to monitor that. Now, here in the United States, I'm not sure about any other country, but we've approved Pfizer as a booster. And so we need to continue monitoring the long-term effects of this. So if you've gotten to the point where you've gotten 1 or 2 doses, we know so far that it's safe. So now we need to start playing around with the booster doses. We need to start figuring out what those next steps are in the long term.
Thank you, Doctor. And Doctor, what new revelations have come to light with the virus versus the vaccinations in place?
Yes. Well, we keep seeing different variants popping up. Over where I live, we're starting to see Lambda variant coming up a lot. Of course, the Delta variant is causing a lot of havoc right now. I'm at UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas. And when we were having this, when we had this segment a few months ago, we were at about 50 people that were in my hospital with COVID-19. Today, we're at 68. So we can see that we're having different variants. We're having mutations in COVID-19 and SARS-CoV-2. And so, yes, it's great that we're getting vaccinated, but now we also have to keep up with the research to figure out what's going on with these different variants.
Thank you, Doctor. We appreciate that response. We are going to read some comments. Let's read those comments with Dr. Vita online. Dr. Vita Kaki, let's read some comments from others at home. Dr. Suhal, thank you so very much for joining us, for taking time to join us. And also thank you so very much for introducing me to Dr. Samir, who joins us this evening. And Dr. Suhal, I say, is interesting flow of conversation. Thank you, Doctor. And Ruth says, that's right. So maybe for the rest of your life, they started outside by saying one vaccine, and she was agreeing with something else that was said. And Patrick T says, everyone who can get the vaccine should get the vaccine. Thank you for your input. And Amjad says, Dr. Somia Tada, really a pride of the whole nation. Thank you for those comments, and keep the comments flowing. Dr. Vito, we will be back with you shortly. Thank you. We would like to welcome some more of your comments onto our screens as we read some more of your comments. And the next comment that you have, and thank you for sharing the comments. Thank you for sharing the program. Thank you for participating. And Pastor Rosling, thank you for joining us. And she says, I was skeptical when these vaccines were introduced and I did not want to get vaccinated. I got to a point when I had to weigh the pros and cons of getting the vaccinations. And the cons are after the effects of the coronavirus attack. And I got vaccinated recently and I'm still alive. And we're glad that you're still alive and we need you. And Sophia says, there is not enough evidence how this vaccine will affect a child from being in the womb up to a year later, let alone 5 years. And I think Professor Rotimi will be best to comment on your comment, Sophia. He will be back with us next. Okay, and let's see any more comments that you have, and keep them flowing, keep them coming. Today we're creating awareness. We each want to learn. We each would like to see what we have to put forward, and then hear from the experts on the ground and how they can steer us into the right direction. And then Anthony says, we need Jesus to fix this. But you know what Jesus does? He empowers us to do things here on earth. And people are entitled to their opinion and a right to question what is being forced to put into their bodies. J2E, thank you for your comment. And yes, we are questioning. And Patrick says, I've had both vaccines. First one, I was a bit achy. And third day, I had something like a flu. Second dose, I had a dead arm, but barely anything aside from that. Thank you for sharing your experience. And Banga says, what are mild to moderate side effects of the COVID-19 vaccine? We will also ask Professor Rotimi to advise us on that too. Professor Rotimi, what are our mild to moderate?
Thank you for having me back. Mild symptoms that you could have are soreness at the site of the injection. At times you could have a fever, which paracetamol, Tylenol, or Panadol would help you with. Hydrate yourself as well. Some people have body aches, some people have headaches. Usually, those are the common symptoms that you tend to get with vaccinations. Or at times, you could have pain in the armpit, and that's just your body reacting to the vaccines. So these are not serious side effects, and there are things that will dissipate, that will go away within a short time. One of our viewers said he had a dead arm. What he meant was perhaps heaviness in the arm rather than dead tissue in the arm. So those are the common side effects you get. And that's what you get with most vaccinations, a fever, a headache, a body ache, maybe nausea, vomiting, but these are not common. It's usually the temperature and the pain.
Okay. And Professor, I've got some friends of mine, and they had their first jab as a couple. And after they had their first jab as a couple, they then, in between their two jabs, they then caught the COVID, and they were really, 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 really ill for about 2 weeks. And they then had their second jab, and after they had their second jab, they were just they just had the flu-like symptoms for about a day or two. My personal question is, after they had the first jab, should they have been that ill in between with the COVID?
Like we have said, there are ongoing studies with the vaccine. When you get the very first vaccine, it doesn't mean that you would have been able to mount sufficient, I will use the word recognition, to fight off to fight off the virus. And that is why you need a second dose, and perhaps even now a third dose. So it is possible, like Dr. Vita said, you have non-responders or low responders, and they may have not responded to a state or to a level where they would have been able to fight off the infection when they came in contact with it. And the evidence to tell us that is when they got the second dose, they were all right. And I will just share a personal experience with you. I have been monitoring the level of the antibodies I have, not just doing the PCR test. I'm doing the numbers, looking at the figures of my antibody levels. And I know that after I got COVID and the levels were high. After my first dose, the levels went higher. Then between my first and second dose, the levels of my antibodies started going down. Then when I got my second dose, it went up again. And since my second dose in March of this year, my levels have been going down gradually and gradually and gradually. And that's why I think there's evidence to support the need for a third dose.
And so now we're talking and we're hearing about the booster vaccination that's coming through. We are going to be talking about that in a minute. But in the meantime, we would like you to answer this question. How long does the COVID-19 virus vaccination last for? Do we know yet How long?
No, we don't know yet. And that is why we're talking about the booster dose now. No vaccine lasts forever. What vaccines do is to teach the human body to recognize that particular type of virus. So it's not the vaccine remaining in the human body forever. We have what we call T cells. I don't want to go too technical. T cells have the ability to recognize certain viruses for a longer period, but not the vaccine. That's not due to the vaccine. That's due to the human body. So vaccines don't last forever. And just to keep it simple, if we look at the flu vaccine, in the United Kingdom, we get it every year, especially if we are in the at-risk group. That shows that vaccines don't last for more than 12 months. And that's why it's necessary to get the flu vaccine in 12 months' time. There are some vaccinations that last longer. Yellow fever, for example, can last for about 10 years before you require another dose. So I think the human response to vaccines vary depending on what type it is.
Thank you, Professor. Professor, we have a number of comments that have been coming through, and our media technical team have been sharing some comments that are coming through. Some of them not so very nice, and some of them a little bit disturbing. I just want to say that for the ones that are predicting how long people are going to be alive for, and I sincerely apologize. I don't mean to offend anyone, but I also don't want to be part of scaring anyone that has had the vaccinations in them believing and living. You know, we are what we speak, we are what we think, we are what is inside us. And if we are already condemning people to saying that the ones that have had the vaccines have got a year to live, 2 years to live, 6 years to live, I personally don't really want to be part of that one. I really apologize. I don't mean to offend anyone, but we won't be putting those ones up on the screens. We will, however, be asking the doctors and professors here to acknowledge that statement. We are going to start off first with Dr. Somia. Dr. Somia, there are many comments that are coming through, and with the prediction that those individuals that have already taken the vaccine are going to die. Can you tell us, is there any ounce of research that is there with this statement that has gone around?
I don't think there is any scientific data to date which proves that anyone who is going to receive the vaccine is going to die in few years. Previously as well, there have been no vaccine as such which has caused death of the people. So I don't think there is any reality in this assumption that people are going to die. The vaccines, they produce an antibody response which is protective for you, so it will protect you from further getting into trouble by inducing an immune response in your body, and these immune response in the form of antibodies protect you from further infections. So I think whatever vaccine is going to do is to protect you and reduce the severity of your illness if you get a breakthrough infection. And that is all what vaccines do. And vaccines are the really help which we need right now. The more we get vaccinated, more the population is vaccinated globally, the less are the chances of transmission of the disease from one person to another. And if the transmission is at a halt, then there are lesser chances of developing new variants. So I think we should all advocate vaccines because they are backed by a lot of scientific data, not only from one source, but from multiple sources. We have studies going on globally around the world, in America, in UK, in Europe, in Asia, and in Southeast Asia. So a lot of work is being done, and we are very fortunate that we were able to get a vaccine in a short period of 1 year, but a lot of research and effort has been put into it. So it is time to believe in science, and I don't think there is any truth to this fact that the people are going to die, and we cannot predict the future just by having an assumption.
Thank you, Dr. Soumya. We would like to ask Dr. Vita Kaki the same question. Dr. Vita Kaki, the same question comes to you too. The prediction of people dying, is there any scientific research that you've also found in the United States of America? We've heard about the research in Pakistan. Is there anything at all makes you feel that there can be some people that can die from the vaccine? Or is it maybe in the cases that there's some people that might become intolerant to something that is in the vaccinations that might cause those individuals to die from the vaccine? Is there anything at all that you have found in your research?
I have never ever heard of this theory that people that receive the vaccine will die after 5 years. This is my first time hearing it.
We've seen videos that even come from the United States here in the UK with some that are actually are saying they're from the medical background and are making these claims.
Yeah, there is nothing in the scientific evidence that would suggest that after 5 years people would die. If that were the case, then they would not be administered. In order for a vaccine to be passed, there has to be very, very rigorous testing done on it. And so over 51% of the population here in the United States has been vaccinated, over 61 in the UK. So that means that half of the entire Western world would die. So I have never seen anything in the literature that indicates this. So I would say that this is false.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor. We appreciate that. And we will ask that same question after a little short break that we're going to have and play a video. Turkey is reported to be introducing mandatory PCR tests from September the 6th, requesting that all unvaccinated people present a negative test prior to attending social events, including theaters and concerts. After the video we're going to play shortly, I am going to ask this question to Professor Rotimi, if this is something that is going to be introduced in the UK. Author and podcaster Norma Ellis sent me an article today published by the Express newspaper yesterday, and it read, "Coronavirus breakthrough as AstraZeneca held results of a vaccine alternative treatment." At that point, and that said, let's look at this video that I stumbled across from Sky News.
Testing has already become part of our lives. Now, if you get COVID, you'll be offered this. Run by the UK Health Security Agency, it's a chance to test your antibodies when you first get the virus and then 28 days later.
The government is wrestling with the decisions this autumn around booster vaccination, who to boost. Knowing individuals who don't mount an effective or a very high antibody response may be clinically useful because they could be singled out for vaccination. So a much more targeted vaccine program could be possible than what we're doing at the moment, which is just saying everybody gets vaccinated.
Health Secretary Sajid Javid said he was proud to see all parts of the UK uniting around this new initiative and working together to arm ourselves with even more valuable insights into how COVID-19 vaccines are protecting people up and down the UK. Latest figures have suggested that over 90% of adults in England have got antibodies.
Tear the white strip off and then just feed it together, and that's the test completed.
But Sunday's COVID numbers still show over 32,000 cases in the UK. Events like the Mela Festival in Luton are feeling the impact. 2019 was the last time it was held. It's again been cancelled. This weekend, Wardown Park should have been packed with thousands of people. But because the rates of COVID here in Luton are slightly higher than other parts of the east of England, the organisers decided only last weekend that they had to cancel. Just another sign of how the virus is still having an impact on the way that we live. In the park, we met Tina and Tracy and their mum Jean, who has dementia and lives in a care home. They're still restricted on how they can see her and hope antibody tests would change that.
It can't be that complicated because the other tests aren't complicated, and it just makes you know where you are, make you feel safer when you're out and about if you know that you've got good cover in your antibodies. So yeah,
hopefully it will get them out of the home.
Yes.
8,000 tests a day are going to be available for people who test positive. All of it vital information for the government as we brace for potential new variants and another phase of vaccinations. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News in Luton.
Thank you for watching that. Professor Rotimi, we are back again onto the booster talk. Let's talk about the booster. Professor, earlier we were talking about if you've already been vaccinated and then you've got the immune inside you, you've got the vaccination, or if you've got the COVID, and would you just need a booster? We have some couple of other questions of individuals who are again asking that question for clarification. For some individuals that do not want to get or are hesitant in getting the vaccination, they want to be able to know about the booster and their immune system. And as per the last video that you've just seen, what's your advice to them? What would you advise them to do?
Yeah, my advice is based on science. When we talk about booster doses, it means you're giving more of the same so that you have a higher level of antibodies. I usually try and use analogy because I do not see this as a scientific meeting. If anything, a public education avenue or opportunity. When you look at your car engine, you tend to top up your engine oil so that the engine does not knock. With antibodies or vaccinations and antibodies, when you get your first dose, the levels may not be as high as they should be, and you may not be effectively protected. When you get your second dose, your body now recognizes, it has the ability to recognize the protein or the virus, and it mounts a higher antibody response. Now, that's where we are at the moment. And like we said earlier on, and somebody said, well, we're continuing to do trials. What the trials are telling us is that the quantity of the antibodies over time declines. As we speak, we don't even know what level of decline would make one vulnerable to severe infections. And that's what science is all about. And thank you for showing that film from the Sky News. That's the test I was doing personally to measure the quantity of antibodies in my blood. And I think with data being collected, I mean, more than 2 billion people have had the vaccinations. And globally, tests are being done, trials are being done to find out what the minimum or how many would we need. Is it going to be every 12 months? Those questions we don't know. But with passage of time and with science, we would be able to say maybe it's every 6 months or maybe it's every 12 months. But we've just got to wait for that. We should be mindful of the fact that the vaccine itself has only been around now for less than a year. I think it came December 2020. And so it's been around for less than a year. So we cannot speak confidently or absolutely to say, oh, it's 6 months, it's 3 months. But there's evidence to show that as time passes, the antibody levels decline.
Thank you, Professor. Professor, so in a summary of it, when it comes to the COVID-19 and when it comes to the vaccinations, scientists, researchers, doctors, professors, you're doing all that you can in unity. It is, however, still work in progress as you develop and create and have and collect more data and analyze as how people are reacting to it. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And
Professor, on another question in terms of the Delta virus, how much emphasis of fear or concern should we have on the Delta virus? How fast is that spreading?
I mean, the Delta variant is more virulent. And when we use the word virulent, we mean it's, in quotes, more aggressive than the initial COVID-19 virus. And that is why we're still saying exercise caution in what you do. Avoid very crowded spaces like you saw in that movie of a gig. Open up your windows, avoid closed spaces, avoid crowded places, because the virus goes from one person to another. It's transmitted from human to human. If there's no human contact, then there will be no transmission. So just to answer your question, the virus is here to stay. Variants will continue to occur. The Delta variant, what we've seen is that it is more aggressive and it causes more illness. But in people who've been vaccinated, they're able to mount a response. They're able to mount an attack against it. And their illness is not as bad as if they hadn't been vaccinated at all.
So if you've had the COVID-19 vaccination, it gives you some immunity to the Delta virus?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Because it's a variant of the COVID-19, so it halfway gets you there. Is that correct?
Yes, it does.
In the layman's language.
You cannot quantify that. But studies have shown that even in spite of the Delta variant, like the Sky News reporter said, 90% of the population already have antibodies. And we have fewer people going into hospital in spite of the fact that we've got the Delta variant around us.
Okay. We thank you for your time, and we thank you for answering that question. And for tonight, Professor, in your own way of thinking and experience and being on the ground, and as a researcher, as a scientist, as a professor, and in all your beliefs as a human being on this earth, what would you like to share with us on the COVID-19 virus, the jab itself, and the Delta virus?
Yes, I mean, human beings, just like animals, are exposed to infections. We're exposed to diseases. So these conditions are here with us. And how do we treat them? Scientists have been given the knowledge of what these viruses are, how to deal with them by the development of vaccines. And I can see where there is some concerns, and the concerns are genuine, and we acknowledge that, is that people are still worried about the safety profile. But like I said, over 2.4 billion people have received the vaccines. No death has been directly attributed to the vaccination. And you spoke about me being a scientist and being various things. I'm also a person of faith. And I believe that the Almighty God, in whatever religion, has given human beings that knowledge to do what we can do. We've been given the knowledge to manufacture cars. Recently, we have Richard Branson going to space. These were not available before. And we should use the knowledge, the wisdom that God has given us to address the issues that face humanity.
Professor, what an amazing statement to end off with on your words to us. And we thank you. And we thank you that
Thank you.
You've come to join us and share more information with us. Please do bear with us until the end of the program. We've only got minutes to go. We are going to welcome back Dr. Vita Kaki back onto the show. Dr. Vita, you have some knowledge you would like to share with us as the program was progressing on the variants and vaccinations. Please enlighten us.
I'm sorry, it was breaking. Can you repeat that?
Okay. You have some information and some knowledge to share with us on the variants and of the from the COVID-19 to the Delta variant and the vaccinations themselves. Can you enlighten us?
Sure, yes. So when we think about the way that these vaccines are created, they are created to detect a protein that's coding the SARS-CoV-2 virus, right? So the way that viruses look is they have a kind of protective coat around them, and then inside is the DNA. So the whole goal of viruses is they want to go inside of humans so that they can spread that DNA around and make more of themselves. And so these beautiful vaccines, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, University of Oxford, they're created to detect a protein outside of SARS-CoV-2. Now, these different variants that we have, Delta, Lambda, they do not alter that particular protein. So as of now, the variants that we have, they still protect against COVID-19. Now, we're starting to see some non-definitive explanations and people saying that the vaccine is not as effective for the Delta virus or the Delta variant, for example, but we need long-term research to say definitely. Overall, what we're seeing is that these vaccines are still helping because they target the Delta variant or the S protein. My apologies.
Doctor, thank you. And Doctor, in your research and in your scientific, with your scientific cap on, what advice would you like to end with us today to advise us further? And maybe to that person that's thinking, should I really get it or should I not? I've listened to everything that's been said today, but I'm not sure. Should I? What's your advice to them?
Well, all I can say is it's a personal decision. So I always say I'm a mother. I've got my wonderful son right here. And so he's my motivation. He's my why. So I cannot afford for this little guy to end up getting COVID. And so that's the reason why I went ahead and sacrificed. Even though I got sick the first time, I went ahead and did it the second time because he is very, very important to me. So my question that I would pose to whoever's listening is, do you have people that you want to protect? For me, I could take the bullet. For me, it's my life. It's fine. I can do whatever I want. But I have this little guy, and then I also have my mother and my husband. And so for me, I had to get it because I wanted to protect the people I love. And so everyone out there, you just have to kind of look at your situation, your lifestyle, and ask yourself, if my little child got sick because I passed COVID to them, how would I feel? Yeah, I wouldn't want this little guy to get COVID. So yes, that's my advice.
And he's in agreement with you too. We can see that. Hey, okay, Doctor, we thank you for your time and thank you for being a mother, a doctor, a researcher, a scientist, and still having time to come and share this moment with us. We appreciate you. Thank you. Dr. Asomia Iktada is an extremely capable and accomplished young physician who is currently working in the capacity of an associate professor of medicine at King Edward Medical University in Lahore in Pakistan. She joins us today from Pakistan, which is now about 1 o'clock in the morning. And so we would like to thank you for staying up and joining us on the Extraordinary Achievers Show and for all the work that you're doing internationally, including in London, in Congo, everywhere around the world. We thank you, Dr. Samia. Dr. Samia, we have some questions for you. And we also have a comment from Dr. Sohal who says, the room for the third vaccination jab, has there been a consensus on the period of reducing immunity to get the booster?
Well, to date, there has not been consensus on the booster, but a lot of data is coming up which is supporting this. So, if I quote some data from the Pfizer, which shows that the initial efficacy is about 95%, the studies also show that by day 200, there is a reduction in the efficacy to 70%, and it reduces to 50% by day 250. So this supports that with the passage of time, the immunity, it dies off or it fades away, and we need a booster to get a good antibody response, a level which is protective for us. Similar is the case with the other vaccines that we have come across, like uh, AstraZeneca, and for some of the vaccines which are used in the other parts of the world, like in Russia, we have Sputnik 5, and in some Chinese vaccines as well, that the initial efficacy, it doesn't remain the same with the passage of the time. And so this advocates the use of boosters, especially in those people who are 65 years and older, or who are at higher risk, or who can anticipate having a level of immune protection that is less robust and sooner to fail. So boosters will very likely to be required first for older adults, then the general population within the 6 months of their last shot. So they are very much in pipeline, and some countries have already started using the boosters. And as more data is coming up, I am sure that other countries will be adopting this, especially in the high risk population, and saving their healthcare workers, which are the frontline soldiers in the war of COVID-19, and saving other lives. So people who are more vulnerable, like older people, people living in nursing homes, or immunosuppressed people, people with chronic debilitating diseases, and healthcare workers, they will be given priority to start with the booster dosage after 6 months of their initial, and then the general population will be given boosters as well.
Thank you. Thank you. We have another question for you. Thank you for answering these questions. We appreciate you. Thank you. And Melissa says, what is the difference between a PCR test and a neurological test, and a rapid antibody test?
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Very interesting question, and I think it will be useful for many people. So you see, the PCR is actually the polymerase chain reaction. Is the abbreviation polymerase chain reaction, which is the actual genetic material of the virus, which we check by a nasopharyngeal or an oral swab. We detect the virus genetic material via testing. The ELISA is usually checked for antibody responses. The antibody responses are the antibodies are produced as a result of immune reaction in response to a virus. And I think you meant the antigen test when you said rapid antibody test. It's actually the antigen test. Antigen is also part of virus, and it can be detected via a small kit, which can tell you if the virus is present, and it is done via blood. So it's easier rather than getting a sample from your nasopharynx. You can just check in blood if the virus is circulating. Then the part of the virus, which is the antigen, it can be detected via kit. So they give you same kind of information, but PCR is the gold standard because it actually detects that the virus is, the genetic material of the virus is present, and it has less chances of being false positive as compared to the other tests.
Thank you. Dr. Soumya, what would you like to leave our audience and viewers with from advice from you today? And as I've said to our other guests and your core panel today, and I've asked the question, as a human being on earth and as a God-fearing child, but also as a scientist, as a doctor, and as a researcher, deep down in your heart, what are your thoughts?
I think that COVID-19 is once in a century pandemic. It's an extraordinary situation that the world is facing. We've never seen a pandemic in our life before. And this calls for an extraordinary measures. And we are so lucky that we are born in an era of science, in which you have the data and everything is in front of you in the form of scientific evidence. So if we believe in science, then we should believe in vaccines as well. Uh, to me, they are the only hope to get us out of this pandemic, because to date we do not have any specific drug to cure this disease. There's no specific antiviral which is active against this virus. So the only hope is getting a larger chunk of the global population vaccinated, so that there is less transmission of virus, lesser number of variants, and more people are protected, then the virus will eventually die off. So I would encourage everybody to get vaccinated and complete the whole vaccination dosage. We have very good vaccines like messenger RNA vaccines, which has high efficacy rate above 90%. Get both the shots. So sometimes I see people get one jab and that is an incomplete response, and then they forget about the second and they don't get to go to their appointments. So get the 2 jabs completed, because they are going to protect you. As Professor already mentioned, that the first shot only primes the response in the body, and the second shot actually acts as a booster and makes that response to such a level that it protects you. So that is why in between first and second shot, some people do get infection. But after getting the complete dosage 2 vaccination, your body is protected from the virus. Major chunk of the people, they are protected. There can be some people who can still be infected, but if they are infected, the severity of the illness is very low. I'm just quoting one example from my own hospital where I work, which is the designated center for COVID-19 treatment. We have 170 people today admitted to our hospital. And in the ICU, 99% of the people are those who are not vaccinated. So what else evidence do you need to prove that vaccines work and unvaccinated people are at higher risk of getting into this serious disease? So I believe what I see. I'm very hopeful that as people will come up with the data from around the globe and they will start believing in vaccine. So my advice to everyone would be, go get your vaccine, get both your shots. And one more important thing that I want to emphasize, that even if you are vaccinated, follow the COVID SOPs. Avoid large crowded places, avoid undue exposure to people, wear a mask, wash your hands, because even if you are vaccinated, you can still be a carrier of virus and you can carry that virus to somebody else. So nobody is safe unless everybody is safe. So we have to not only protect ourselves, but protect our fellow human beings, people around us as well. And so please follow the SOPs. Don't be in a hurry to, start partying and going back to normalcy, because this will take some time and we have to be very patient if we want to get rid of this virus forever. So we need to be
Thank you,
very
Doctor.
cautious to follow the SOPs.
Thank you, Doctor. Doctor, the Delta variant, how concerned are you of the Delta variant?
Delta variant is one of the variants of concern. There have been 4 variants of concern so far, and variants of concern are those which have either high transmissibility or they cause a more severe disease. So Delta variant is actually reversing the normalcy which people were looking towards. Like UK and USA, they were returning to the normal routine by opening up the markets and businesses and everything. But because of the surge in the number of cases, because of this highly transmissible virus, we have to restrict ourselves again. So I am concerned about this Delta variant, but I am at the same time, I am hopeful that as we increase our vaccination number around the globe, there will be less chances of newer variants and there will be less chances of severe disease. So while I say that it is a variant of concern, this comes with this statement that we should all get vaccinated and decrease the severity of the illness by getting vaccination. Because if we do not end up in hospital and if we only have a mild infection, that is much, much better than having not being vaccinated at all and getting into a serious trouble and ending up in a hospital.
Thank you, Doctor. Doctor, thank you so much for taking time out. And as I said before, thank you for joining us from Pakistan and at 1 o'clock in the morning now. We thank you for your dedication to your work and dedication for others. Doctor, we thank you so very much. And we would like to ask Professor Ratimi one minute question and answer time. Professor Rotimi, with the Delta variant, have you started working on a vaccination for the Delta variant?
I'm not a virologist or a laboratory scientist, but I am certain that the pharma industry have started looking at vaccines for the various variants that are coming up. No doubt about that. I can categorically say the pharma industry. I mean, we have so many variants now, and new variants coming out, perhaps daily, perhaps monthly. And as soon as the sequencing is done, the pharma industry, all they have to do is tweak a little bit of their vaccines so that it can recognize the new variants. Like we've said, it's the protein covering of the virus that's the issue. And once the main vaccine does that, all we have to do is perhaps tweak it a little bit. So it's not going to be an arduous task to find vaccines for the variants. That's much I can reassure the public.
Thank you, Professor Rotimi. Dr. Vita Kaki, a 30-second question for you too, for a 1-minute answer. Dr. Vita, how pushed are scientists and researchers like yourselves going to be with the COVID-19 vaccination, trying to make it better and better in each day? And then having the variants that we have now, as we understand, it's not only the Delta variant that we should be concerned about. There are several, and about 4 top variants that we have at the moment that we should be concerned about. How pushed are you all going to be at the moment? Because you haven't finalized the finalization of the COVID-19 vaccination.
There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure in the labs. I mostly work on cancer, but there's kind of this, okay, let's ignore cancer for a little bit so that we can come up with different therapies to work on these incoming variants. The issue that we're having now is today, the Delta variant is an issue. Tomorrow, Lambda might start peaking. The next variant will just keep coming and coming and coming. So there is that pressure to stay on top of current research, to stay on top of the different cases all over the world. We look at a lot of the sequencing data so that we can see if there are different mutations popping up. So there's definitely a lot of pressure right now. The good thing is people are getting vaccinated, so things are getting better. The funding here in the United States is reducing just a little bit for COVID-19 research, but there's still plenty out there for other investigators that want to study it. So we're making progress, but we're kind of scared.
At the same time, which is a human emotion to have at this moment in time. Dr. Vita, we thank you for joining us, and we thank you for sharing that and answering that question. We want to thank you all for watching from home. The Extraordinary Achievers Show is not here to endorse having the jab, and neither are we here to say do not have the jab. We all seek understanding, pursuing knowledge, and willing to gain understanding. Today's program serves for us to discuss and to learn together. Together, we're here to learn today. We would like to thank you for sharing. We would like to thank you for commenting. We'd like to thank you for your questions. And we apologize for some of those other questions that we did not get time to put up on our screens. It was due to time. We are half an hour later running today. And however, we are grateful for your participation. We also noticed and the media team in the background were telling me that there were a lot of conversations going up and down in the forum, and we thank you for that participation. Next week, Wednesday, the 1st of September, we will be talking about race. As a Black race, are we evolving in unity, or does the past still define African Caribbeans, or is it merely an excuse, a label we place on ourselves? How can we successfully migrate and change and define our future? In other words, as Black people, are we holding ourselves back? Are we living in the past? How can we go into the future? And how can we evolve from then to now to there? And how can we better ourselves and work in unity? And what do we need to do? We thank you for watching the Extraordinary Achievers Show. We welcome you every Wednesday at 8 p.m. as we look at different topics, creating awareness or simply highlighting things that are going around in our community. We would like to thank the admin team, and we would like to thank the technical team that assists me in bringing this program to you. And most importantly, I would like to thank our guests that say yes from around the world to joining us, enlightening us with their expertise, with their experience, their knowledge, and their lives. We thank them so very much, because all together we are the Extraordinary Achievers. Thank you, and good night from me.
Thank you for watching. You can now follow us on Facebook and subscribe our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, share, and comment.